I speak to business leaders every day who really want to improve employee well-being, but they don't know how. They don't know what works. So very often they're reverting to those trendy well-being initiatives that we all know about. But they're looking for answers. And my hope is that this will provide business leaders with the answers they need so that they can make better use of their workplace wellbeing budgets and roll out interventions that actually improve employee wellbeing.
At the Wellbeing Research Centre, we've been working on a model of workplace wellbeing. And important to this theoretical model is how we measure workplace wellbeing. And we've picked out 4 key measures which we use to describe people's experiences at work. This is job satisfaction, stress levels, sense of purpose, and happiness at work.
So when we measure employee well-being, it's really important, but it does only tell us how employees are feeling. It tells us nothing about why they're feeling the way they do. And that's why the drivers of employee well-being are so important. There are so many factors or drivers that lead us to feel the way we do.
So when you want to know how people feel, you ask about how satisfied they are with their jobs, or whether they're happy at work or have little stress, or whether they feel a sense of purpose in the work they're doing. Those are outcomes. But that's driven by, or explained by, if you will, by items such as, are they being paid fairly? Do they have a sense of belonging, a sense of flexibility to be able to balance work and life? Are they having supportive managers and supportive peers? So these more qualitative elements of what make a job, those elements help explain why they feel a certain way.
And it's really important that business leaders measure these drivers and conduct analysis to figure out which areas they are performing poorest in, and then roll out evidence-based interventions to improve those areas.
Our experience of life is fundamentally shaped by our experience at work. Most full-time employees spend at least a third of their life between the ages of around 18 and mid to late 60s. And so how our experience of that, the opportunities that we get, the harms that we receive, studying this is really vital to understanding people's life course and their social relationships, their health and well-being outcomes. The importance of work well-being can't be stressed enough for people's overall life experiences.
For most of us, work plays a central role in our lives that provides more than a source of income, but a sense of identity, meaning, purpose, and community. We spend a significant portion of our lives at work, and people often refer to their job as their livelihood. Hence the questions, what do you do for a living? Or what do you want to be when you grow up? So all that said, work takes up a large portion of our life and therefore represents a space with tremendous opportunity for well-being improvement. So in other words, if we can figure out how to best cultivate workplace well-being, we can potentially improve the quality of people's lives, both at an individual, family, and societal level.
So one of the insights coming back from the world's largest study on workplace well-being, thanks to our partnership with Indeed, where we've crowdsourced now over 20 million company reviews. One of the key insights around the drivers of workplace well-being is that what people think matters most isn't necessarily what actually is most predictive of their workplace well-being scores. So for example, when we ask people, what do you think is most important in driving well-being at work? They'll say, I want to be compensated fairly, I want flexibility. But when we actually run the analysis, what we find is that things such as a sense of belonging, trusting others, and more, those things have been undervalued when it comes to thinking about it and actually turn out to be really, really important in making you happy while on the job and retaining you as a talent for the organization.
We've drilled down to look at the drivers of well-being and changes that can be made to the work practices that shape those drivers. So whether that's about the learning opportunities, whether it's about the pay structures, the scheduling structures, the support mechanisms, all of these types of, all of these dimensions of work, we've looked at all of the literature that seeks ways to change these practices for the better of workers. The outcome of this, we've developed it into a menu written as such, so it's easy to read, easy to be consumed by HR managers to learn what the best practices are, learn from the best evidence that's out there or what we know of it. And the idea is really to transmit what is in the scientific evidence base, but help get it into workplaces so that we can improve working lives.
There are so many factors that need to be considered for an intervention to be rolled out effectively. So if you think about training is something that we suggest quite often across multiple drivers, but a lot of training programs are ineffective. And this has to do largely with the transfer of training. So I experienced this several times where I would go to a training program that maybe was required by my employer, or it was something that I was just interested in and wanted to do, and I had the privilege to enroll, and either it didn't support my learning style, or it was poorly designed, or it just, the translating the knowledge or the skills into everyday practice, there was a massive disconnect. And so this is an example of how we might suggest training, but actually providing your employees with access to a quality training program that is well designed, well thought out to suit the needs of your workforce in your particular industry is really important.
One piece of advice that I would have for business leaders is it is really important to look at the data. It is important to measure not only how employees are feeling, but why they're feeling that way. So measuring all of those drivers, but don't stop there, because qualitative data can be just as important as quantitative data. So I recommend the next step for business leaders is to listen. Listen to your employees. Host some listening lunches, invite them along, share the results, and then ask the right questions and shut up. Open your ears, close your mouth, and listen to that feedback. Because that might just help you in identifying your research gaps and figuring out which interventions you're missing.
Having a say in workplace decision-making not only makes employees feel more valued and empowered at work, but they are key stakeholders in the business who possess very valuable information that can be incredibly helpful for not only improving workplace well-being, but also performance. So one thing that we continuously try and promote throughout all stages of figuring out your workplace well-being score, or how employees would gauge their workplace well-being, to identifying a potential area for an intervention, designing an intervention, implementing it, evaluating, involve employees in every stage of the process. So it's important that business decisions are well researched and supported by quality evidence to minimize waste, and whether that be waste of resources, waste of time, energy, but also to avoid unintended outcomes that could potentially make well-being worse. So we've essentially tried to put in all that hard work to deliver a useful suite of possibilities to consider. I think that it's a great first step towards achieving workplace well-being. It's definitely not, a foolproof solution, but it can definitely get you to where you want to go much quicker.
This is just the start, and we very much hope it will positively transform the working world for employees across the world. But the reality is, it does answer a lot of questions, but there are still more research gaps than there are answers. So we need to commission more research. We need to identify more answers, and we need to expand this menu of interventions I very much hope that in 10 years' time we can look back and we will be on volume 4 or volume 5 of this menu of interventions, learning more and more every day about how we can truly improve well-being for employees right across the world. We want to get this into the hands of as many business leaders as possible. So it's very simple to access. Simply go to our website, worldwellbeingmovement.org, and you'll be able to access these interventions categorized by driver and available in a very simple, accessible, and plain English format. At the World Wellbeing Movement, we're so grateful for the support of all of our corporate and philanthropic sponsors. And for this particular project, we're very grateful for the support of Indeed.